We're going to get started on our next panelist. It was a little fortuitous. I don't know if you saw the plug in the last presentation.
I did.
It was awesome. So if you've ever questioned whether one creative is better than the other, I think we're going to learn now about how A/B testing is critical and how Peleg, Israel, and his team are doing some amazing stuff. And I think this is going to be a very interactive session and very enjoyable, because I certainly enjoyed it when I heard it on the phone.
So you just built very high expectations for this presentation. I'll try to meet them. So first of all, hello to everyone. My name is Peleg Israeli. I'm the general manager at Bidalgo. For those of you who don't know Bidalgo, we're a Facebook PMD, preferred marketing developer. Basically, our expertise is user acquisition for mobile apps, for game developers. We help them scale their activity on Facebook and reach the KPIs that they obviously work very hard to achieve. Based out of Tel Aviv, our headquarters is in Tel Aviv. We just recently opened a San Francisco office. We're about 35 people. And we've been in this space for about 5 years. I've been fortunate enough to help really the biggest gaming clients out there scale their activity, launch their apps, work on their acquisition campaigns. And the clients have actually agreed that we share some of their successful stories, some of the things that we've done together with you guys for you to learn a bit about how to create good creative on Facebook. So we're going to start out with a little bet. You can see here two images for House of Fun. Nick was talking quite a lot about them. The one on the right-hand side, sorry, you know what? Actually, both of these images were appearing in the news feed. Let's play a little game. Let's see a show of hands of who thinks the one on the right-hand side, the gorilla image, overperformed over the lion. Okay, see. More or less, okay, it's becoming more and more. Around 10. Who thinks the lion image is better? Okay. Why is the lion image better?
Because it has a simpler message. It's clear what it is, it's clear what the game is, and it's clear what it's a clear message.
Okay, good answer. Who said the gorilla image is better? Why is the gorilla image better?
The gorilla face pops out more than the face stops. It's pretty clear what it's doing.
Good answer. So actually, the lion image performed better, but this is a dilemma. Actually, usually people say the gorilla is better, and the lion had a 90% higher CTR, it had a 154% higher install rate, and it's a very interesting thing to see because, as you mentioned, the gorilla is staring in your face, it pops out, it's very colorful, so it's very easy to think that that would be a better performing image.
Actually, you know, it's interesting. I did this demo with you on the computer, and that image actually stood out even more on the computer.
It looks like what?
How does it look like on a phone?
I can't understand.
Look like on a phone.
Oh, how does it look like on a phone? We're going to see a bit later more images like that, and I hope that will answer your question. But notice the depth in the image, because we're going to talk about that later. Let's do this again. Guys, two ads for Caesar Slots by Playtika. Both of the images here are identical. We have different texts. So the text on the right-hand says, download now to win free coins. And the text on the right-hand says, pay attention, it's madness time. Let's see a show of hands. Who thinks the win free coins image performed better, or ad performed better? Okay, not you. Why? More attractive? Okay. Great. Who thinks the pay attention, it's madness time ad performed better? Why? Better message. Okay. So actually, there's only a 1% difference in the CTR. And this leads us to a very important conclusion about Facebook marketing. Yeah, exactly. Image is always over text on Facebook. In the real estate they give us for the ad, the image has the majority of the real estate. And it's not that texts are insignificant, but today we're going to talk much more about images because that's what plays the major part in UA on Facebook. So here's an ad for Slotomania. And this is an example of how things would look like in a perfect world. Okay, this ad performed, hit a CTR, a click-through rate of 17% above all other ads that were running at the same time. The install rates were 4% higher. conversion to FTD. FTD, for those who don't know, first-time depositor or a payer, was 21% higher than the average ads running at the time. And if we really look at the full funnel from impression to payer, we see that this ad was almost 50% better than all other ads, which leads us to a very, very simple conclusion that obviously this ad is overperforming across all KPIs. But in the real world, we have a much more difficult situation. So here you can see two beautiful ads by Product Madness for Heart of Vegas, one of the leading social casinos. And you can see the ad on the top. It had an almost 80% higher CTR than the bottom one. You look at the install rates, we're talking almost 40% higher. But actually, when you go deeper down the funnel, you kind of see that flipping over, and the ad on the bottom reached 182% higher conversion to payers. And if we again look at the full funnel, we actually see from impression to payer that the bottom ad was actually overperforming. And this reality actually makes a big problem for us, because we want to identify indicators in very upper funnel events that allow us to know which ads to promote and to push so we can make good decisions early on. But in this case, we actually see that as we go later deeper into the funnel, that our decisions can be wrong. And it leads us to a difficult question, which we ask ourselves as Facebook marketers, as people who, this is our profession, this is what we do all day. Can we really predict creative performance? And you'll see many times in our office, different campaign managers really arguing between them about if an image is good, isn't good, and what is the probability that it will be the most successful one. In order to overcome that challenge, we've put together a process that we've really built a methodology, that we live by it, we've implemented it internally, and I want to share it with you guys, and you can probably adapt a lot of these things to your workflows. So it starts with the way we upload campaigns. Obviously, us being a technology company, we build a lot of technology to help us with our methodologies, but we've actually built a system, or in our campaign upload system, we've built kind of a content management system, which allows you to organize your images or your art in folders or tagging systems that are convenient for you. So you can put all your blue images, all your pink images, all your slots images, however it is a user wants to manage his content in very, very easy accessible folders. And then you can just retrieve your content simply, see the different images in the gallery, and with a simple mouse over, you can also analyze the data. So you see the different KPIs that each image reached recently, and it just makes a much, much smarter campaign upload process for a user acquisition manager. After we've done that, we actually go into A/B testing. So something that we've learned in Facebook is that, and many people have mentioned this here today, it's very, very, very difficult to predict what's going to be the next winner. So what we do is we obviously do a lot of research, and we have our theories, but then we go into very, very wide-scale A/B testing, where we test a lot of different segments, a lot of different combinations of ads, of text, of targeting and features. And at the end of the day, we have a strong algorithm that helps us manage all of this 24/7 and identify what is going to, which combinations have the probability to reach the target KPIs that we set out for ourselves. It allows us to create thousands of tests without spending too much money in doing that. After we've done all of this and we can actually understand which images performed better and which didn't, this is the part where the human insights is actually critical. So we start to look at the different ads that performed well and didn't perform well. So just a suggestion, you can take all of your images, put them in a nice spreadsheet, have the KPIs that are interesting for you at the top, and then you start looking at which had higher CTRs, which didn't, the different KPIs, and you can sort and filter the data in a way that will help you analyze, you and obviously your creative and design team, analyze what is the successful elements that are recurring in the different creatives. You can also create KPIs like quality scores, where you give each of these different KPIs a weighted average and kind of come to one last score, or an ROI metric, which obviously is a very important KPI to measure. And after you've done all that, you've done wide-scale A/B testing, you've read kind of the output or the conclusions of that and identified what was working and what isn't, you need to start doing more iterations with the design team and creating enhanced images that will boost your performance. And what we've done is we've tried to take kind of many different elements that we've recognized to be successful, a lot of different advertisers and our clients, and we put together the lucky 7 rules for winning the jackpot. So rule number 1 is to know your audience. We have many different audiences available on Facebook. You need to make sure that you're talking to each segment in the way that's relevant to them. So for example, here for Hit It Rich, we promoted an ad especially for a male-based audience with a Duck Dynasty TV show very much associated with a male crowd. And when going after a female audience, we saw they reacted much better when we spoke to them in a bit of a different way. And it goes the same when you go after a younger crowd like college students or fashion lovers. Every audience needs to get relevant messaging. And speaking about messaging, at the end of the day, it's also what you write on your ads or in your text. So if we're talking about acquisition, here's a great example of Casa Casino, where they're very, very informative and tell the users this is a real 3D casino, or try your luck, and they show the slots lever over there, and it's something that's obvious what you want the user to do. But when you're speaking about re-engagement, again, you can see 2 great re-engagement campaigns of Product Madness here, where they speak to the users in a very unique way, or a very personal way. They tell the user they miss them, or a special reward that's designed for a specific user, and not just a general offering to the crowd. These are 2 great examples from Playtika about how showcasing your product, and it goes back to what you were saying about the first lion image, is key. At the end of the day, you can see here a slots image with a reel spinning, and a slots player is looking for this kind of excitement in their game. You can also see an image that might look just like a mess to many people who aren't really slots players, but for a hardcore slots player, they want to know the game features multi-lines. They want to know that this is a part of what they're going to get, and it's very relevant for them. So call to action buttons are quite basic, but surprisingly enough, I still see many advertisers that don't really use call to action buttons on their ads. So I just wanted to quickly reiterate the importance of that. You can use call to action buttons that are very simple, like a play button. You can be a bit more creative and tell the user you want him to sit next to the slot machine. You can be a bit more informative and tell them what the product is about, play slots, or even a bit more emotional, spin and win, and bring them into the excitement of the game. Rule number 4 is listen to your users. So this is actually an interesting one. I talked about A/B testing earlier. I talked about understanding what elements work well. Once you've found an ad that performs well for you, or art that performs well, you need to start creating more and more variations of that, and trying to expand the user base that's reacting to this ad. So this is another example for Hit It Rich. You can see that users reacted very well to this Medusa character. So just by changing the background, changing the call to action, making more variations of Medusa, we managed to bring a big uplift to the user base. And it can even be much simpler, just adding a couple of lines, and suddenly you have more users that are interacting with your ads. For House of Fun, we identified that flames and fire was something that their users were reacting and engaging with very much, so we just started creating more and more variations of flame-based ads, and it worked very, very well. Rule number 5 is use the ad format wisely. This is brings out the creative skills in each of us. At the end of the day, you need to try to stand out and do things different. So here's an ad for Heart of Vegas. You can see when Facebook introduced the desktop app install ad, they put a little a call to action, the Play Now button, right to the right-hand side or below the ad. What we did is we started taking arrows out of the imagery, pointing to the call to action buttons, and this just it drew people's attention and got them to react with the ad. We talked about the depth of the gorilla. So we noticed that just think how something like this would look on your news feed, where you have an ad that has depth to it. It's 3D. It's very disruptive. It's very different than what everybody else is doing, and it gets users that are attracted to slots interested in this, because it's very, very, very different than every other slots banner they've seen. Obviously, timing. The world is changing around us all the time. the more you can be relevant to your crowd, to current events, to things that are happening, the more seriously people are going to take your ads. So obviously, if we have a big holiday like Christmas, create some Christmas ads or New Year's ads, but it can be for Halloween and for Martin Luther King Day, Australia Day, Black Friday, and any other thing that is interesting for the target market that you're going after. And the last rule is you really need to keep things interesting for your audience. One of the things that is very, very clear on Facebook is that CTRs decline very, very, very quickly. You can see here a graph of how a CTR of an ad or a certain creative will go down week by week, which obviously brings your prices up and makes your user acquisition much more challenging. What you need to do is to constantly create new creative, constantly approach your users in new ways, in refreshing ways, and a general rule of thumb that we believe in is at least 10 new creatives per week for your app. So just a quick summary of the rules we talked about. Know your audience. You need to speak to each segment in a relevant way. Showcase your product. Show them what they're going to get when they click on the ads. Call to action buttons, very, very important. Listen to your audience, identify elements that you believe are good and start creating more and more variations of them. Use the ad format wisely as being creative, trying to stand out, not doing more of the same. Timing, trying to fit yourself to what's going on. And refreshing creative all the time. So we're going to finish with one last try for you guys. We have Slot's image on the left-hand side and for Casino Frenzy, and a lot of different celebrities on the right-hand side also promoting Casino Frenzy. Can I see a show of hands who thinks the left-hand image is better? Right? About half-half. Okay, why is the right?
I got the gorilla right. I don't know. The faces on the right.
The faces, the celebrities, okay. Who said, sorry? Okay, new. Who said the left-hand image? Why?
Because it looks like a casino.
Looks like what?
Like a casino.
Yeah. So this is rule number 2. Showcase your product, you're right. And at the end of the day, as attractive as the celebrities are, at the end of the day, users want to see the product. I'll end with a sentence that this is the main point I wanted to make here today. Creative is very, very, very important for user acquisition. You need to treat it seriously. You need to give it the resources it deserves. And just think of it even from a brand perspective. This is the first time that users or your audience are going to be seeing you, your brand, your product. You want to look good. Thank you very much. Questions?
Do you hear me? Can you please give some insights about the A/B testing on Facebook, how you do this? And the other question is, do you think that organic reach is dead?
Do I think that organic reach is dead?
Yeah, on Facebook by the changes of the algorithm, but the first question was, can you give some insights about A/B testings, how you perform this?
Definitely. So I'm going to try to simplify it a bit because we use our technology which is made for A/B testing on Facebook. But generally, the way it works, before promoting a new application, we do a lot of research. We try to understand who the target audience is. We look at the different imagery within the game. We look at the different assets available and try to create several different types of appealing imagery for the target audience that we've defined or the client has told us about. Then we start doing the A/B tests, which again, we can do very, very wide-scale A/B testing with our algorithm that's making sure costs are staying down and we're being very efficient with our testing. But if I was to answer this without a technology, you need to pick the segments, different segments that you believe should be tested. You need to assign a limited budget to each segment and use the different lines of imagery that you've made in each of these segments. Once you've started doing this testing, you need to start doing the analysis process that we talked about and ask yourself which segment had which imagery perform well, and start making the connections, connecting the dots, and slowly expanding it. So you start with your core segments that you believe in most. If you hit your targets and things are performing well, you expand to the second circle and third circle, and constantly kind of go to more speculated segments and ones that you're a bit less sure about. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but how you choose the users? Is there, I don't know, users who like some fan page, or what's your user base? How you choose it?
So there's endless possibilities on Facebook. So what you just mentioned is actually part of the researchers understanding the user's likes and interests. So the fan page is a way of doing that. And then you can decide to target specific users that are interested in specific fan pages. Another way is lookalike lists, which Facebook is constantly improving, and it's a very, very strong feature. Endless different targeting features on Facebook. So we really combine all of them. That's part of our A/B testing solution.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have you tested the duration of how long you keep an ad up for?
We have. I can't say there's a clear answer that always repeats itself, but basically a good ad can last for a couple of weeks. We're constantly looking at which ads are dying down, and if it reaches a point that we believe it's just not working anymore, we cut it off and replace it.
And when you look at cutting it off, replacing it, which metric do you look at? Click-through rates, the quality of the traffic that it's bringing? Are you looking at the whole funnel? So you're looking at like the end funnel, right?
Yeah.
Because you can make that wrong conclusion if you're not
Definitely.
attracting the wrong audience.
So I would say our default is looking at the ROI, at actually how much money we spent on that ad and how much revenue the application has gained from that. We can see all of that inside our dashboard, so we have very, very convenient or efficient monitoring capabilities. That would be our default metric. If an advertiser would like to, sometimes they want to go for more volume and bring decent quality users, but bigger volumes, so the CPI becomes a more important metric, or the conversion to payers is an important one.
And when sites, do you work with any like startup sites that don't have like massive budgets? I mean, the names that you put up there are the biggest names in the industry.
Yeah.
What's your advice to someone who's just starting out with a smaller budget? I mean, do you work with them? Do you help them?
So first of all, definitely. Actually, Nick, who just stood here, he's not yet as big as House of Fun or any of these big guys, but he will get there. And it's a great example of how we can help smaller developers scale their activity. There is a certain limit when kind of what we always say to potential clients is you want to start using a service like ours or a technology like ours when your game is stable enough, when you're sure that you're happy with your product and you're not constantly changing it, and your big challenge is scale. Once you're at that point and you're really looking to ramp it up, definitely I would recommend using a partner like us or any other Facebook PMD, which can help you out very much with that.
So a lot of what you've been talking about is these various different creative assets and all the various combinations and these A/B testing on them. But I mean, those designs are so rich with many different factors.
Mm-hmm.
How can you know that, oh, it's that one because the reason that performed better is because it's got the play and win. But maybe it wasn't because it's a play and win. Maybe it's because the text was slightly larger, or it's because it was on a blue background, or because the gorilla's eyes were slightly off. Or I mean, there's so many different combinations that how can you really begin to know what's actually causing the success?
You're right. It's a great question, because at the end of the day, it's something that we ask ourselves a lot, and it's very, very, very difficult to identify one specific thing and keep it constant. Yeah. Because even if you take the imagery out of the conversation, just think of the fact that you're running campaigns on different days and different hours, different users, different, weekends, weekdays. There's endless things changing all the time. What we try to do is identify trends, and that we do very, very well. Take the flame example, okay? Through the creative optimization process we did manage to identify that something is very interesting in the flames, and I'd say over 90% of the flame images that we created actually worked very well. So it might not be 100% right, but as a general trend, we definitely managed to identify a certain element.
But wouldn't then flames, that's the universal then, isn't it? Haven't you just determined that flames are really good, so we should just always all use flame?
So surprisingly enough, it doesn't work for all. And I don't have a good answer for why that is, but we have noticed it works more for some than others. It's definitely something that should be tried, just like a Lucky 7 or just like a cherry, right? There's some universal truths that sometimes will perform better, sometimes won't. Once you have the ability to do a lot of tests and not fear that you're going to lose a lot of money, it makes these things very easy. Even if you don't have a statistical answer that's 100% accurate, you don't need to fear losing money. Not convinced.
Well, I mean, I am convinced. I mean, you've made it work, so it clearly, the proof is in that you can do it. But to me, it feels like it's such a throwing things into the wind that it seems very hard to really know what's going to work, and then even it might work on one thing and then it doesn't work again later. So you're back to where you were. You're back to square one.
Well, I agree with the general concept of what you're saying, but again, when you have a technology that helps you do that, and you can get into a very simple routine of trying to make educated guesses, they might not all be right, but if you make educated guesses, and you're not going to be losing a lot of money if you're wrong, and statistically over time, make educated guesses, and you'll be good.
Right, like the casino, just give yourself an edge.
Exactly.
Well, when you're trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work, and you're obviously doing all of these, regression analysis against all these various data points, do you, and obviously you wouldn't share it with other clients, but do you, in order to help you determine better what it is that variable that is correct, look across your clients to say, so if you've got, Slotomania, Product Madness, Zanga, and you obviously have all of this data across all of your customers. Do you look at the data field across all of your customers? Obviously not saying, hey, this worked on Zanga, you should do it, but trying to figure out
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say?
I do. I completely understand. And I think at the end of the day, when we work with products that are relatively similar, we learn to understand the audience better. So it's more of institutional knowledge that our team gains, and they understand, if it worked for Zynga and Playtika and Product Madness, and you start to understand who the audience is, you're going to probably make better decisions the next time you launch a slots app, right? But it's not like we have some kind of new metric we can introduce to the world that we found by data mining all the different clients.
But you have more data
Of
because
course.
you're across all of the biggest operators.
Of course, that's our expertise, and we definitely have it.
Oh, we got two more. We have time for two more, then we must move on.
Have you tried to optimize the ads for lifetime value, like actually go forward in time and
Definitely.
see what ads actually are creating the most lifetime value for you, an actual ROI ad analysis?
Definitely. If you remember the spreadsheet I showed, the ROI field was empty, but that's actually the field that we use the most. Obviously, I'm not going to share any ROI data here, but it's definitely something we look at, and it's actually a tough one, understanding why one ad brought a higher lifetime value than the other. I think our ability to influence this is limited, because at the end of the day, going back to the different variables that are changing all the time, you can't really pinpoint that one specific ad over, 3 month or 1 year period had something that made a user pay a lot of money.
I bring up because I suspect that an ad that might be a lousy performing ad might actually filter for users that aren't payers. This is what could happen.
That a lousy performing ad would.
Be a filter that would end up basically bringing in users of high value. This could happen.
Definitely. It definitely can. Basically, when we look at user acquisition, we can't really take on challenges like that as part of our daily routine, because we're constantly looking to scale activity. So, if you're thinking too far down the line and looking for those connections, you're not going to be succeeding with scaling activity in an efficient way.
Have you tried taking ads that were successful, that you've retired, and then bringing them back 6 months later
Yes.
or annually?
Yes.
Does that work?
Yeah, actually it does. Sometimes when kind of ads get overexposed and we feel that they were even, you can say, abused, the user sells them too many times, we put them aside, give them a couple months, reintroduce them, and suddenly they're back to life.
Thank you. We've run out of time, so if you have any more questions, I'm sure you'll be happy to answer them in the back. But we have to move on to our next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys.